The rain hit the chapel roof like scattered whispers, a soft, constant drizzle that wrapped the world in gray. Inside, the warm hum of murmured condolences painted the air thick with sorrow, or at least the appearance of it. The scent of lilies was heavy, almost nauseating, mixing with perfume and old wood. On the altar sat a photo of me framed, polished, surrounded by flickering candles. My name printed in bold beneath it, Mara Ellis, 1989 to 2025. Dead. According to everyone in this room, I was dead. My sister, Clarissa, stood near the casket. She was draped in black chiffon, her blonde hair perfectly styled, not a strand out of place. She held a tissue delicately, dabbing her eyes with precision, a rehearsed performance. My mother sat in the front pew, stone-faced, unmoved, not a tear. My father, hands clasped tight, stared blankly ahead, a man hollowed by secrets. There was no body in the coffin, just weight, a stand-in for the truth. I knew because I had watched them place the decoy. I knew because I had seen it all from the shadows. 3 months ago, I had disappeared. At least that was the narrative they spun. It was supposed to be a vacation, a break after a brutal burnout at work. I told no one where I was going. I needed time, silence, solitude. I left my phone, my laptop. I checked into a remote cottage near Black Pine Ridge. No Wi-Fi, no service, just trees, silence, and space to breathe. And then, my world changed. 2 weeks into my retreat, I received a letter. It arrived in an envelope with no return address. Inside, a copy of a death certificate. My death certificate. Cause of death, accidental drowning. Location, unspecified. My blood ran cold. I remember the way my hands trembled as I turned the paper over. Attached was a newspaper clipping, my obituary, a funeral date, a eulogy written by Clarissa. I don't know how long I sat there, hours maybe, thinking, reeling. They thought I was gone, and instead of looking for me, they'd buried me on paper in legal filings, in public memory, a clean erasure. But why? Why would my own family declare me dead? When I returned to the city, nothing was mine. My apartment had been emptied, my bank accounts frozen, my name scrubbed from business records. And Clarissa? She was living in my loft, wearing my clothes, managing my clients. She had stepped into my life like a replacement actor. My parents backed her every move. According to public filings, I had left everything to her, but I hadn't signed anything. That's when I began collecting documents, photos, emails, surveillance footage, copies of my original signature compared to the forgeries, conversations recorded, the lawyer who filed the paperwork, an old friend of my father's, the judge who approved the estate transfer, golfing buddies, all of it meticulously built to make my disappearance seem like death and my death seem convenient. The night before the funeral, I watched them from across the street. The lights in the Ellis estate glowed soft behind the sheer curtains. Laughter floated out. Toasts clinked. Celebration masked as mourning. Clarissa twirled in a red silk robe, the same one I'd worn the night before my trip. A gift from an old lover. My mother sat proud, wine glass in hand. My father paced, rehearsing his speech. They weren't grieving. They were basking in victory, but they didn't know I'd come back. The funeral was held at St. Augustine's, the church where I'd been baptized. The irony wasn't lost on me. I stood just outside, cloaked in black, a hood pulled low. No one noticed. No one questioned the quiet figure in the shadows. Clarissa stepped up to the altar. Her voice trembled just enough to seem authentic. Mara was light. She was strength. She was everything I ever hoped to be. Lies. I stepped inside. At first, no one turned. The organ still played. The priest bowed his head, but then, a gasp. Then another. Clarissa froze mid-sentence, her eyes locked on mine. The blood drained from her face. My mother's wine glass smile shattered. My father's breath caught in his throat. I walked down the aisle slowly. You forgot to invite the guest of honor, I said. The silence exploded. Whispers turned into murmurs. Murmurs turned into chaos. Clarissa stumbled back. You're supposed to be dead, I offered. That's what you wanted, right? And that's when the storm really began. This was only the beginning. They buried the wrong girl. Now I was here to dig up the truth. The gasps echoed off the cathedral walls like cannon fire. The priest staggered back from the altar, clutching his rosary, as though I were a ghost risen to collect what was owed. I kept walking down the aisle, my heels clicking with the precision of a metronome. Every step stripped the lies bare. Clarissa's face crumbled beneath the weight of her perfectly set makeup. Her mascara clung to lashes now soaked with sweat and panic. She tried to speak, but the words caught in her throat like thorns. My mother, always composed, reached for the pew like she might faint. My father stood, not rushed to practice for that. He looked at me like he did when I was a child caught with a secret, not like he was seeing the daughter he'd buried. "Sit," I said, my voice slicing through the murmurs. I climbed the pulpit, stood where she stood moments ago, and looked over a crowd that once mourned me with crocodile tears. "Let me give you the real eulogy." Gasps became silence. Everyone listened. It wasn't grief in the air anymore. It was tension, electricity, and I fed it. "I am Mara Ellis, the one you said drowned, the one you signed away, buried with a blank coffin. And today, I return not for vengeance, though I've earned it, but for truth." Clarissa found her voice, shrill and cracking. "This isn't the place. You made it the place. You staged this whole charade to rewrite my life. But you didn't just want my life, did you? You wanted to erase me." A projector screen descended, and with it came a series of images I had queued up with the church's ARV system. Photos of Clarissa in my loft, selling my designs under her name. Emails from my father to a judge. My mother's bank statements with transfers that led to offshore accounts. The crowd, former clients, colleagues, family, friends, turned their heads in stunned disbelief. Some gasped, some cursed. A woman clutched her pearls. A man reached for his wife's hand. "You didn't just forge my death certificate," I continued. "You forged my will, transferred every asset to Clarissa. You used a corrupt lawyer, Dad's friend. And let's not forget the bribes. Judge Winston, nice golf handicap." My father tried to approach the stage, but I held up a hand, revealing a small device. "Come closer, and this recording goes live. Names, dates, bank accounts, all sent to every major outlet in the country." He stopped, sat down, rage simmering in his eyes. "You always said I was too emotional," I said, turning toward my mother. "But emotion is what kept me alive. It's what kept me watching. And now, it's what will bury you." Clarissa collapsed into a pew, sobbing, mascara streaming. But I wasn't moved. She cried for herself, not for what she did. The doors to the chapel opened. 2 uniformed officers entered, led by an old friend of mine, Detective Harris. He'd helped me collect evidence after he couldn't stomach the silence of the system. "We have warrants," he said calmly, "for identity theft, fraud, falsifying legal documents, conspiracy, and embezzlement." Gasps. Clarissa whimpered. My father went pale. My mother didn't move, she knew. As they were led away, the chapel buzzed with stunned disbelief. Some guests stared in silence. Others began to rise, shame or disgust etched into their expressions, but I stood tall. "You held my funeral," I said. "Now watch me rise." I walked back down the aisle, through the pews, past the candles still flickering beneath my photo. The rain had stopped. Sunlight pierced the stained glass windows, casting rainbow fragments on the marble floor. I stepped outside, exhaled the years of betrayal, and walked into the light. This wasn't just revenge. This was resurrection.